In 1792, the French Revolution ignited a European conflict that would span a generation, a struggle for dominance over Europe and the world. Battles raged on both land and sea, but amid the shifting alliances, the most enduring rivalry was between France and Britain. While Britain could not match France's military power on land, the seas were a different story. The Royal Navy was as dominant on the water as Napoleon would soon be on land. Among Britain's many skilled naval commanders, one stood above the rest: Horatio Nelson. Bold, inspiring, and brilliant, he became a national hero. These are the stories of his greatest battles. By 1797, the Revolutionary War had entered its fifth year. France had conquered the Low Countries and northern Italy, with its armies advancing toward Austria. On land, the French Republic reigned supreme. At sea, however, Britain's navy held the upper hand, securing victories over the French. Yet a new threat emerged, an alliance between France and Spain, which posed a serious challenge to British naval supremacy. While ship for ship, the British Navy was superior, its crews well-trained and experienced. The French had lost many officers during the Revolution, and the Spanish Navy suffered from poor funding and training. Britain also had the numerical advantage, with 144 ships of the line, the most powerful vessels of the era, compared to France's 69. However, Spain's 84 warships tipped the balance. If these allies could unite at sea, they would outnumber the British and potentially secure a decisive naval victory, altering the course of the war. Britain's largest naval force, the Channel Fleet, consisted of 16 ships of the line guarding the homeland, while detachments kept watch over France's Atlantic ports, including a powerful squadron at Brest. Meanwhile, Britain's Mediterranean fleet, once operating from Corsica, Elba, and Naples, now found itself outnumbered following Spain's entry into the war. As a result, the British made a strategic withdrawal to Portugal, where the fleet was reinforced to 15 ships of the line under Admiral Sir John Jervis. His mission, to monitor the Spanish closely. In February 1797, 5 Spanish merchant ships set sail from Malaga to Cadiz, carrying mercury, vital for refining the gold and silver arriving from Spain's New World Empire. The cargo was deemed so critical that it received a formidable escort, the entire Spanish battle fleet, consisting of 27 ships of the line and several frigates. Once in Cadiz, Admiral Cordoba, the Spanish commander, planned to continue to Brest to join the French fleet. If successful, Britain would face its greatest strategic threat, a massive combined fleet. A strong Levanter wind carried the Spanish swiftly through the Strait of Gibraltar, but it also pushed them too far into the Atlantic. As they struggled to regain course, thick fog descended. Meanwhile, HMS Minerve, a British frigate returning from a diplomatic mission to Italy, carried an emerging star of the Royal Navy, Commodore Horatio Nelson. His destination was Admiral Jervis's fleet near Cape St. Vincent. On the foggy night of February 11th, HMS Minerve found itself surrounded by the Spanish fleet. The British could hear Spanish voices in the mist. Miraculously, they remained undetected and slipped away. 2 days later, Nelson reached Jervis's fleet and confirmed the enemy's proximity. Though their exact strength was unknown, Jervis ordered his ships to prepare for battle and set sail to intercept. The Battle of Cape St. Vincent. At dawn, the British fleet, sailing south in 2 columns, heard Spanish signal guns echoing through the fog, confirming their proximity. But while the British fleet advanced with purpose, the Spanish were scattered in their efforts to reach Cadiz. As the fog lifted, Jervis saw for the first time that his fleet was massively outnumbered. Reports from lookouts climbed steadily, 8 Spanish ships sighted, then 20, then 27. Finally, Jervis snapped, declaring, "Enough, sir. The die is cast, and if there are 50 sail, I will go through them." The Spanish fleet, split into 2 groups, attempted to maneuver. Jervis saw an opportunity. If he could position his fleet between the 2 Spanish divisions, he could engage half the enemy at a time, greatly improving his odds. As battle commenced, the British vanguard opened fire at 11:30 a.m. Jervis ordered a precise maneuver. His fleet would turn in succession to maintain pressure on the main Spanish force. Meanwhile, the smaller Spanish group attempted to flank and divide the British fleet. However, Jervis's disciplined captains kept their formation tight, repelling the maneuver. Then, an audacious move changed the battle. Commodore Nelson, commanding HMS Captain, saw that the Spanish fleet was slipping away. In an era where maintaining battle formations was paramount, Nelson made a bold decision, disobeying orders. He broke from the British line and steered straight into the Spanish fleet, taking on multiple ships single-handedly. His target, Cordoba's massive flagship, the Santissima Trinidad. Under heavy fire, Nelson's ship took severe damage, but just as it seemed his gamble might fail, reinforcements arrived. HMS Excellent and HMS Culloden rushed in to support, battering the Spanish ships. As the battle raged, Nelson executed a daring boarding maneuver. Using his damaged ship as a bridge, he led his men onto the San Nicolas, capturing it in fierce hand-to-hand combat. Then, without hesitation, he stormed the adjacent San Jose, forcing its surrender as well. This extraordinary feat was later dubbed Nelson's patent bridge for boarding first rates. Meanwhile, Cordoba's flagship, the Santissima Trinidad, endured a relentless British bombardment, suffering over 300 casualties. Just as it appeared on the verge of surrender, 2 Spanish ships managed to tow it to safety. With the battle won, Jervis ordered his fleet to regroup and secure their 4 captured prizes. The Spanish, now in retreat, sailed for Cadiz. The aftermath. The Battle of Cape St. Vincent was a decisive British victory against the odds. 4 Spanish ships of the line, including 2 massive first-rates, were captured. Spanish losses exceeded 800 dead or wounded, with 3,000 taken prisoner, while British casualties were significantly lower, 73 killed and 227 wounded. Nelson's brilliance overshadowed his insubordination. Instead of reprimand, he was knighted and became a Knight Companion of the Order of the Bath. Jervis was elevated to the title Earl of St. Vincent and later became First Lord of the Admiralty. For Admiral Cordoba, the consequences were dire. Despite his personal courage, his failure to maneuver effectively led to his disgrace. He was dismissed from the Navy and barred from the Spanish court, dying in obscurity in 1815. While not a battle of annihilation, Cape St. Vincent had major strategic repercussions. The demoralized Spanish fleet withdrew to Cadiz, where the British blockaded them, preventing any hope of a Franco-Spanish naval union. The course of the war had been altered. The following year, in 1798, Rear Admiral Nelson returned to the Mediterranean in pursuit of a French fleet carrying General Bonaparte's army to Egypt. His legend would only grow from there. In the age of Nelson, a young Englishman seeking purpose had a simple answer: join the Royal Navy, smash the French. But those were simpler times.